Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, this is Joe and Jay Outspoken. You can find all of our social media channels at linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Today is an exciting episode for us, folks. We have actually been looking forward to doing this for how long, Joe? A couple months?
Oh man,
forever.
Forever.
Yeah, so today, if you guys don't know, is International Coffee Day. So
That's like one of our favorite things. Like besides being alcoholics, coffee is the second thing that we love to do.
well, I don't know about the alcoholic thing. And you know me, like I don't drink coffee every day, but I love coffee.
Wow.
I really do. So yeah, we're gonna talk about all things coffee today: beans, pods, ground.
There was a
machines.
lot of space between beans and pods, bro. Let's make sure we put them together a little faster.
Yeah,
all right.
bean pods.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I feel like you're throwing daggers at me, bro. You're throwing daggers at me.
All right. Well, we're gonna talk about beaners today. Let's do this.
Baby. Let's go. Let's go.
All right, everybody, welcome back, and here we go on our Cup of Joe episode.
Yeah, Cup of Joe.
It just happens to be that, one of the hosts here's name is Joe, so it kind of all works out good. It doesn't sound as good Cup of J. That's kind of awkward, so.
But it kind of fits in, though. It's also,
Yeah.
It's the same thing. Let's not be picky.
Right. So coffee's been around a long, long time. There's no way to know exactly where it came from, but the AI Historical Foundation says that it was founded in Ethiopia by Kaldi, an Ethiopian goat herder, around 800 AD. So it's a long, long time ago, and we've been obsessed with this dark water ever since. Some people more than others. So
mud water,
yeah. There's a group out there that's doing stuff called mud water, but it's your favorite little thing, mushrooms. It's mushroom. It's supposed to be really good for you, but that is not what this episode is about. So, yeah, if you like all things coffee, and most people do, it is crazy the amount of coffee shops that have opened up. So Joe and I used to share a house together, different rooms, of course, so don't get anything weird about that. But
all of a sudden,
so down the road, a little bit down the road, there was a Dutch Brothers coffee, right?
Mhm.
And right around the corner, like literally right around the corner, was this little private held coffee place that was really good, but no drive-through or anything like that. So if they had a drive-through, they'd probably be twice as popular.
Oh yeah.
Under the freeway, a little bit down from there, is another Starbucks or another coffee place. It's a Starbucks. Then they open what was called Bikini Coffee Beans. Bikini Bean Coffee. There you go.
Bikini Bean.
And then across the street from the Dutch Brothers, they open another Starbucks. So two Starbucks within not
even a mile
apart, man. No,
not even a mile.
I don't even think that's a half a mile apart. Maybe a half a mile,
No.
if that. Crazy. So for anybody to think that coffee is not a standard for everybody, and when I drive by those sometimes in the morning, every one of them has a line, and Dutch Brothers is open 24 hours a day. It's not very often, but once in a while, going out to visit you or something and coming back, kind of late at night, 12, 1 in the morning or something like that. And guess there's people in line at that coffee place. It is just insane. So,
oh yeah.
What is it, Joe? What is it about coffee that makes people so needy for it and willing to pay $7 a cup for it?
So here's the biggest thing is just the convenience, right? You get up early in the morning. People most of the time people nowadays love their sleep, right? They value their sleep like it's gold, right? So right. They try to get as much sleep as possible. They ain't trying about to make a big old coffee. because it's just them that want to get the coffee. They're on the go. Making a pot of coffee, it's going to sit there. Most likely you end up throwing it away. So people, they're just like, you know what? I'm just going to grab and they get these gift cards, and they're the apps for everything, right? They have apps for absolutely everything. So every coffee shop that I'm aware of has apps. You get points, and they're like, oh my God, I'm buying, you get a free coffee after $100 of coffee that you've bought, but they don't see it that way. You see like, I bought 7 coffees, so I get a free one. I'm like, yeah, how much did you pay for each one? So it's that. It's just, and the flavors are so, oh my God, so we've gone away from those espresso type coffees, like in Europe, espressos, it's a big thing. Little cup of coffee, get your thing going, you're done. You sip coffee and you're out, right? Back in the days, I remember growing up, waking up to my grandmother and her Folgers percolating. You could hear that thing just from the bedroom percolating on the stove, making her coffee. And it's the entire house smelled. But it was simple, right? It was some creamer, sugar, done. And it's back then, I remember we had those cubes of sugar, little cubes.
Oh yeah.
So it little cube of sugar,
little tongs.
Yeah, and boom, and you got your little Mexican pastries, and it's good to go. And that was it. It was simple. But then came the pumpkin spice lattes, the macchiatos, everything just started getting infused, right? And now you're looking at like espresso martinis, Black Russians. You're looking at all these specialized drinks, whether it has liquor or not, whether it's hot or cold, iced, cold brew now, right? And there's a method of making cold brew now. It's not just putting it in a refrigerator and it's cold, right? So it's just so many things that's happened since. So it's expanded, right? And it's catering to people and their taste buds, right? And just society as a whole. And honestly, Jay, if you look back, it almost gives you that different class of person. When you see somebody coming in with their little homemade coffee, you're like, oh, that's cute, right? But then you come in with your little Starbucks or your Bisbee roasters or your, you come in and you're like, oh, look at what'd you get, girl? What you get? You know what I mean? Oh, I got the peppermint latte chai, whatever, with non-fat nut cream, whatever. And and so it's
this is a family show, man.
Sorry,
keep it clean. Keep it clean.
And bro, almond nut. You know what I mean?
Again, that space in there, you got to keep those words.
I keep forgetting the almond part. Yeah, it's a part of the nut family. But anyway, it's something about that, where someone comes from home with their little coffee and or someone goes to a specialized coffee place and they want to know what you get. How do you like? I went with my daughter to a Starbucks. I had her order it, bro. I cannot repeat everything that she said in that thing. There's no way. I'm like, I'm going to mess that up. I go, how do they? And she said it so quickly. And the other side, the barista's like, okay. Like, you got that? I'm like, I've known this kid since birth and I couldn't understand that, and these people got it down. So I think there's a big value behind society and how society is around coffee. And it's such a fad now, where before it was really used to wake you up. Right. I mean, but there's some of us, like I could drink coffee. Right. Bro, we used to drink coffee right before bed. Right. We'd go to sleep and we just had a cup of coffee, watching a movie, drinking coffee, and we're good to go. Some people can't do that. Right. Because it's used to get the caffeine, gets you going. You get a burst of energy. You're moving. Right. You're waking up. Right. And, coffee's the thing to do it. And now it's become so demure. So
demure.
Yeah.
That is a word I never thought I'd ever heard you say, man. We have known each other, my Lord, how many years?
Bro, I hear that shit on social media. That's so demure.
When they send those memes and stuff that say if you have a friend that would is gonna drop an F-bomb or say something racist or something like that, send it to them, because if they do within 1 minute you get $1 million. I'm like, I know who I'm sending this to. If they would have told me you would use the word demure, I would have denied it. No way that's gonna happen. Yeah, it's crazy. And one of the things I think, honestly, females have had, and especially, and I don't want to get too, this isn't like crazy or racist, but white females, man, have had a really big impact on the whole coffee thing and carrying a Starbucks cup in. And this is why I say that, because and now this goes into a larger swath of the female population, but they have always had a thing for carrying in purses that are brand named, right, and
Yeah.
stuff like that
Yeah.
that have a logo on them. So you see that, and it's really specific. Now, I'm not saying the guys don't do that too, but I think that's always been a really big thing. So, a girl walking around with the Louis Vuitton purse, is she going to have a Circle K coffee with her? Absolutely not.
No.
She's going to have a
No.
Starbucks coffee with her. And yeah, and then it's just gotten really, it's gotten out of hand and kind of ridiculous because they like walk in there and, like you say, nobody orders a coffee anymore, man. It's like I want a venti iced caramel macchiato with soy milk, extra caramel, 2 pumps of vanilla, a pump
Yeah.
of chai with blonde espresso shots.
Yeah.
Like, what did you just order? Like,
Yeah.
how much sugar? There's like this much coffee and this much stuff pumped in.
And that's the thing. There's no coffee. It's just espresso shots, and the rest is the milk or the froth and whatever you put into it. So it's gone away from that. So it's weird because back in the day when this first started to become very popular with the Seattle coffee and stuff like that, it was more of a standard, like where you at in society. It was a social thing. Like, oh, they have a Starbucks, they got money. You know what I mean? And now it's like, man, everyone goes to Starbucks. Even us poor folk go to Starbucks. You know what I mean? And I got away from that. I went and bought myself one of these Starbucks things, and I just fill it with my home coffee. And people think I'm drinking Starbucks, bro. You know what I mean? I got smart.
There you
know what I mean? But here's the thing: now you don't even have to go to Starbucks anymore, because now you have those espresso machines that are made for your house. Right? So you don't even have to go out there and spend that money. All you got to do is just spend that money up front, which is the machines are cheap. They run anywhere from $300 to like $1,200 for
multiple thousands.
For a nice espresso machine, right? So now they got some different ones. Now they got ones that are a combination of regular coffee with a little espresso,
the pods
with a beaner grinder in there and stuff like that. So it's and then exactly now you have ones that have conventional, just either ground coffee, or they have to grind the coffee, right? Or you have pods, right? So what is the difference? What do you the difference between just standard grounded coffee, right? Your ground coffee versus a pod. So here's the thing, and I think most people, I like to ground my own coffee. I really do. I buy the beans. It's a little bit fresher, things like that. But can you get that? So the biggest difference is convenience, right? Instead of making a big pot of coffee, you just get a little pot, boom, pop it, one serving, you're ready to go, right? And if you need one more to take on the go, then you make another one, but you're not wasting all that coffee. So what I found that besides convenience, there's really nothing else that is a difference. So I found, for a substitute to save money and not waste in pods, and not, of course, do your part in saving the environment and not wasteful pods everywhere, right? Because those things, they do mount up. I found that if you ground your own coffee, they sell these little pods that are reusable pods that you just fill with your own coffee, close it, put it in your machine, and you're good to go. And you still get the convenience of a pod, but it's fresh coffee. You're not wasting the pods themselves, and it's reusable. So of course, Keurig has monopolized on the pods. Different companies use them, but Keurig is the main that created that whole pod system.
Right. And you have Nespresso too, that has the Keurig ones are the ones that are plastic and a little bit bigger. The Nespresso ones are kind of rounded on the bottom, but they're made out of a little aluminum deal, and you can actually recycle that. I've had both. I don't like either one of them personally. I would rather have the Nespresso if I had to pick the two.
Yeah.
But you're 100% right. If you get the reusable little cartridge that you can put in there in place of the Keurig pod, and just stuff your own coffee in there, and stuff it in there, make sure that you put a good amount in there, your cup of coffee actually will come out pretty darn good.
Yeah.
My complaint with those pods is that I feel like it's milky water, man. I don't know what your take is on it, but I just feel like they no matter how small of a cup of coffee I do, they really come out just kind of watery, because I don't not necessarily. So here's another thing. So like Starbucks, if you go back 20 plus years ago, Starbucks actually made really good coffee at their locations, right? That's not the case anymore. Their coffee is really bitter and has a whole different flavor to it now. And I think that's, in my opinion, one of the reasons they've probably done that is twofold. One is that they're having to mass produce so much, they're probably not roasting the beans as good, so you're getting a really weird kind of flavor from it, and they're probably not doing as good of beans. I don't know. Somebody's probably going to argue that point in here. But the other thing is that their main selling product is not coffee anymore. It's coffee drinks, right? So it's a multitude
Coffee
of
based drinks.
Coffee based drinks, stuff that's put into it. So you need a little bit, bolder coffee. Maybe it's bitter or what have you to bust through that, the cream and all the other stuff that they're throwing in there.
So just think about how popular coffee has gotten, right? And when you had Starbucks, which is a Seattle-based coffee company, and they first started coming out, they had a few businesses, right? They had one main location in Seattle, and then it started spreading. So at that size, it was easy to get your coffee beans from one source. Now you have to source these coffee beans from multiple places, right? Where the quality might be in question. Maybe they're not as good quality as the original ones, maybe because of the mass production. And then you have to keep in account, most of these beans are grown in tropical areas. So whether the weather was bad one year and the beans weren't grown very well, whether they, there's so many factors. And again, the roasting. Now, are they roasting them the way they used to, whatnot? And that's another thing. Roasting is key to the type of coffee you get. Right. And you have, because beans start off green, nice green beans, right?
That's right.
And then you have to roast them. And then people still use them when green. And those are expensive beans. Who would have ever thought that you'd said beaners are expensive? They are. Me, I know that especially, but I think it's important to know that there's just so many things that happened that from that occurrence is that there's just so many layers of it happening. So there has to be, you're going to lose something. And I think flavor is going to be one of the things you lose. So, so I think that's important. I get what you're saying. And now, especially when they're growing so much coffee, how is it that you keep that quality base? And now think of the Starbucks alone in your area. You mentioned 2 Starbucks within a half a mile. Now imagine add all the other Starbucks. They're getting all their stuff from the same franchise. Could you imagine just how much coffee they're being consumed in the United States alone?
Well, and I don't want to harp on Starbucks or what have you, but years ago you would go into Starbucks and they'd have like 3 coffees for the day, right? And they'd have like a Kona and a Colombian and then some kind of, it's really, I mean, in the grand scheme of things, it's really recently that they've done their quote unquote house blend or breakfast blend and that kind of thing. It used to be based on, it was a regional kind of deal, right? So again, Kona, Colombian, whatever, wherever the coffee was from. And you could get those 3 kinds, and they had the little machines up there that, if you just wanted a cup of coffee, I don't want creamer, I don't want nothing, just
black
coffee.
Yeah.
They would go back there and they'd squirt that into and that's what you got. Now, all of those types of coffee all come out of the same hopper. There's a big, and everybody's seen it, it's a big copper machine with like a big hopper that has a bunch of beans in it, because they grind those same beans for all your espressos, all your different types of coffee and everything. And so how do they get those flavors to be different, right? And how can they say that there's multiple different kind of coffee? Again, it's mass production, it's come to where, again, stepping back, they used to put like a leaf in the top of the coffee, right? Like a turbarista and everything. They don't do that anymore. They don't have time for that kind of stuff. So
now, and there is coffee shops that still do that, smaller coffee shops.
Absolutely.
Which I like to call almost like the boutiques of coffee. You know what I mean?
That's right. And those usually have phenomenal coffee at those places. Yeah, they have a lot better coffee. And the thing is how is the coffee being made? There are so many different ways, to brew coffee. You can brew it through a pressurized system, right? Where basically like an espresso would be done. You can have a standard drip system, which is what we're normally all used to. That's a regular old Mr. Coffee maker or whatever it is. You can have the percolated coffee, which, man,
I just love that word, bro. Percolated.
It was so good. really popular is like French press, pour over. I'm trying to think. Cold brew is really popular now. All those kind of things. So,
French press, I use that when camping. It's a good brew
yeah,
time. Yeah, French
yeah,
press.
yeah, and all of them will produce coffee in a little different way. Here's a big key thing about it too is that you have to have different grinds for that, right? So
Correct.
that's why, and what you said kind of towards the beginning of this whole deal is that you like grinding your own coffee, right? Get the solid beans, and if you're going to do espresso, or if you're going to do regular drip coffee, this changes the amount of grinding that you physically want to do to the and the thing is that there's nothing wrong with buying pre-ground coffee. There's really nothing wrong with it. However, you are not, I promise you, you're not going to get the same flavor and robustness from the beans that they came from as if you buy the raw, or not the raw beans, but the roasted beans in the package or what have you, and then grind it yourself. There's such a difference,
because you could fine grind them, or you could kind of like medium grind, and depends on what kind of flavor you want. If you want a strong, bold flavor, you do more of a medium grind. If you want like just a regular light medium, then you do fine grind on those things. So it's very important how you grind that coffee, and a lot of people don't know that.
Absolutely.
And most of the coffee you buy at the store is fine grind coffee. You know what I mean?
It is. So it ends up being a little bit more what we call what do you call, like donut house, coffee house, coffee, that real typical McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts, all these other places that sell, coffee that's decent. It's not, nobody from France or Italy is going to give them an award, but nobody's going to really spit it out. It's not terrible, So, that's by far you're right. It's definitely the most common, and machines. Oh my gosh, machines vary as much as anything else. So, like me personally, I have a machine made by Breville that gives you the option of you can either do pre-ground coffee in it, or it has a hopper in the top and it will grind the coffee for you. So you can have a grinder on the side, grind your own coffee, or it has one built in. And what's nice is you can set it up with the timer and everything. So in the morning, it will turn on, grind the amount of coffee you want, put it into the basket, and it's a gold filter basket, and start brewing for you. I normally have it just everything set up, and I just go press play whenever I get up because that darn grinder is pretty
loud.
So
here's the thing. Go ahead.
No, but there's a lot of different great ways to get your coffee. One of the ones that's really popular right now, we mentioned it earlier, is that Nespresso coffee maker. They run like $180 or something like that, and it uses those little pods. And like Joe was saying earlier, they have become popular for what? For convenience, because it's super convenient, and that's out of all the pod systems, that's the best coffee you're going to get without grinding it yourself and putting it in one of those little individual deals.
Yeah. So if you ever open up one of those pods, you're going to see why your coffee tastes like water. There's very little coffee in that thing. Very little. I was intrigued one day. I'm going to open it. I'm like, what the hell? Right. So that's why I bought that separate one where I just stuffed that thing, man. It's like, it's, and here's the other thing about that is, unless you're using an espresso machine, you shouldn't be stuffing those K cups, because you need a good bar, or other words, pressure, so that water, when it's pressurized and pushing through, it's extracting that flavor from those grinds. And you don't have that in a drip system. And that's what basically a K-Cup is a drip system. So you're not going to get that flavor. So you have to be careful about that too. So it has to be a little loose in there, but I try to put a lot more than what they do, right? So that's think about it. They're making tons of money, and those things are not cheap. They're like $15 for 12, $15, $20 for 12. So now, how does someone decide what kind of machine they get for their home, right? There's a couple of things. I think the first and most important is, what kind of machine do you want? What are you making? So they have espresso machines if you're a big type of espresso drinker, or if you like to produce your own coffee. And then there's just your regular drip coffee, right? And now they got the combo, right, where they have both in one. So depending on the size of the machine that you want, how much counter space is going to take in your house. Now, clearly, if you live in a studio apartment or something like that, you don't want to take a lot of space up because you don't have that much room, right? Now, if you have like a coffee bar, then yeah, man, get one of those machines. It's all in one, and you get a lot out of it. And then the biggest thing is just variety, because you could do a K cup, you could do a drip, or you could do espresso. You just, it's a variety that you have if you have the room. That's the biggest thing, I think, when picking one. Second is usage. Do you use it a lot? Is it just something that you're going to have? Is it you drink coffee maybe twice, 3 times a week, maybe espressos once in a while? That's another factor you have to look at. What is the frequency of that coffee? Now, us, bro, the way at least me, the way I drink coffee, and as much coffee as I drink, it would serve me well to have a grinder, espresso, a drip, a roaster, all that. If I had all that, I wouldn't need coffee, and I clearly would have more money, right? But you have to look at the frequency, because that's kind of important. If you don't do it that much, then you know what? Mr. Coffee, $14.99 at Walmart is fine.
Yeah,
that's all you need. You just find some good strong coffee or medium roast coffee, and that's why you're good to go, right? You don't need nothing fancy. If you want something because of convenience, they have these single serve, small, compact Keurig K cup coffee makers. They fit in the smallest of spaces. Another convenient thing, right?
Yeah. Those new ones, they're like $60.
Yeah,
man.
yeah, and they fit anywhere. They fit anywhere.
And they make 6 to 12 ounces, so it's enough for just a single little cup. Or if you have your little travel cup with you, you can pour it in there. Yeah, it's really good.
And here's the crazy thing, that Makita, Makita Power Tools, they make coffee now. So you put a little battery on there, and it's a camping one or for a work site coffee, and it's a K cup. So again, so then now you're looking at the cleanliness of how easy is it to clean. Now, is it just you have to take the pot out and clean that, throw the used up coffee grounds away, and that's it? Or do you have to take it apart because it's an espresso machine? You have to clean, all these other parts to it,
the components. Yeah,
right. Is that what you're looking at? So you have to look at the cleanliness. Now, does it have a water tank where you have to clean that? It doesn't build up with hard water, and you have to clean it all the time. You have to get filters, blah, blah, blah. So you have to put a little research in what you're doing when you're doing it. Now, one of the biggest things when you're doing, now, if you decide to get an espresso machine, I think one of the biggest things that it's important that you got to look for is what they call bars, is how they use to measure that pressure that runs through the espresso machine. So a good espresso machine runs anywhere between 9 and 15 bars. Okay. So you want to stay within that parameter at least, right? My espresso machine I use is 14 bars, and it's perfect for me. It's great. I love it. You could do single serve, double serve, right? So you could have the one that just strips down into one little espresso. You could do the double shot espresso, right? That's the next thing you want to do. You want to look at the bars. If you have some low numbered bars and you really like your espresso, you're not going to be able to extract that coffee from those grounds, and you're going to have some very weak and sour espresso, and you don't want that, or if it's too much pressure, you're going to get a lot of bitterness and burnt taste in it, so you want to be right between the 9 and 15. You don't want to get too crazy with that, right? And if you stay within those parameters, you're going to have the perfect espresso, right? And of course, the last thing you're looking at is price, because they are pricey. I'm going to, expensive. So what are you willing to pay? So here's the other factors to that. Now you break that down into 2 categories in the price. One, customer service and warranties, because if you use it all the time, man, you're going to have some issues, right? And you want to be able to get it fixed. The second part to that is durability. You get a good machine, you're going to get longevity in it. You're going to have durability in it. It's going to last you a long time if you maintain it, if you clean it, if you do everything you need to do with it. So those are just a couple of things that you need to look at. The rest of it is just, I think it's more temperature for me. I love hot coffee, man. It has to be very hot. But other than that, it's all cosmetic stuff, like color. What color do you want? You want stainless steel? You want a navy blue one? You want a yellow one? What do you want? The rest of it is just cosmetic. Like, do you want a built-in grinder? No grinder? You want it off a side? What? Everything else is just, little here and there. So, which is still important, but I think that's going to help you save at the end. Like, do you really need a built-in grinder, or could you just get one off the side and do your own? I chose to have mine separate. Let me tell you why. Because I'll buy different types of beans and I'll grind them different sizes, and I separate them in containers that are airtight. And I put on the outside what they add, and I put either it's going to be a strong roast or medium roast, and clearly you could tell of the grind if it's a medium grind or a fine grind. But I like to have and you can't do that with a built-in grinder because then you have to clean it all the time. You have to, you
That's
know, you
right.
take them out, use all the beans, and then get the new beans. And I'd rather just do a separate than a built-in one. So those are just some of the things I feel that are important when choosing a coffee maker. I don't know. What do you think, Jay? You have anything to add to that?
Yeah. So
Besides alcohol?
One of the espresso machines that they have listed, and it's who is this? U.S. News and World Report has put out best machines to get your little Keurig. If somebody's getting that, that's one of the ones, and we'll put the listing for the models and all that down below here, folks.
Is Breville in there?
So Breville, it's called the Bambino Espresso machine.
That's a good system.
It runs about $299. You can get the daddy of that one. It's about $50 more, but this one's great. It's not too much counter space.
Mm-hmm.
And Joe was talking about bar. This one's it's 9 bars, so it's right at the right at the
beginning
bottom,
of that parameter.
The beginning of the parameter, yeah.
No.
But great little machine. I have a Breville machine, and mine has a built-in hopper with where it will grind the beans for you. I also, just like Joe, I have a separate little grinder that I have on the side that
that wireless one, the cordless one. Man, I love that whole thing.
Yeah,
you know what? You should put that one on here too because I love that thing. I don't know where you got it, but I think it was Amazon.
Yeah, it was just an Amazon deal. In fact, I'll put so my Breville machine I got it at. This is how long I've had it. I bought it at Bed Bath & Beyond many years ago.
Damn.
They don't even exist anymore. So, but the grinder, all of these are available online. My personal coffee maker I have, Breville's done a different model now, so I'll put that one in there. It's not the exact same one I have, but it's supposed to be about the same. When mine goes kaput, I will end up getting that one probably because
you have the hand grinder one, right? That's the one. That's the hand grinder.
Yes. Yeah, it's an old one. You got to sit there and kick the hamster, make sure it keeps making coffee.
Just kidding, brother.
So, but yeah, and Joe's right. The automatic grinder is only going to grind at one, and it's basically going to do it for a medium dark roast kind of setting. Is basically where it's going to put it in at. And it will grind it basically what's most optimal for drip coffee. Because like Joe was saying before, one of your big things is when you're doing it espresso, you want to have a little bit finer, deal. And if you don't know what the cups look like on an espresso machine, all the sides are completely solid. The bottom is where everything comes out through, just the bottom. It is. So it's not like in a regular coffee filter where you're filtering all the way around the sides and the bottom. It's only on the bottom portion. And then that clips in, and that's where that pressure is created from because that thing is locked in there.
Tight.
And it's so drip coffee, you're allowing gravity to set a water table on top of it, and it's just slowly going through the actual coffee grind, where in an espresso machine it's actually pushing that through and forcing it through, not unlike coffee presses kind of thing, which is based on what you're gonna how much pressure you're putting on it. But yeah, coffee's there's so many different ways to drink it. One of the things that people kind of forget once in a while is that you can actually add alcohol to coffee. So and what kind of alcohol would you put in your coffee? Whiskey, bourbon, vodka, all things that you can add to coffee. But there's specific things like coffee liqueurs, and then more specific like chocolate liqueurs, amaretto, Irish cream, brandy, all kinds of stuff. Probably the easiest one if somebody's going to start out, like if you're into coffee and you're into alcohol, but you've never really tried to mix the two, the simplest one to do is to get some Kahlua. And
Kahluas. Oh, baby Jesus.
Drop a little bit of Kahlua into your coffee, and it's really good. And you don't have to put a lot in to get a little bit of different flavor in there. Kahlua now makes some that have like caramel built into them and all those kind of things.
Yeah, they have an actual caramel macchiato like Kahlua.
Is that what it is? Yeah,
and they also have a salted caramel.
Oh, there you go. See,
if you're fancy, kind of it's salted caramel.
Salted caramel.
I call it caramel.
Yeah, so we're creeping into it's October 1st. We're creeping into the holidays already. So
I can't believe how Time is flying.
Oh man, here we are.
So real quick on those things though, before we go any further, let me just add to those on. I know you're talking about the actual espresso. So as you guys get more into the espressos, it's important to know that there's tools that you need. You don't just kind of throw it in there and you're done. So there's some like stirrers that you use, and what it is like it's a little thing that has like 4 or 5 little wire things, and you put it in there and you stir it, because what happens is the coffee gets clumps, and you want to break those clumps up. So you get those, and you're in there and you stir it around, break those clumps, and then when you're done with that, you get a tamper, and you have to press down on the coffee and tamp it down to tighten it up as much as you can, and because you want to now compact that, make it very tight, because now if you don't do that, what happens is that pressure starts building up and you're gonna get like grounds everywhere. So you want to tap it down, make it nice and tight, and then that pressure is just going to push on it, and it's going to just extract that flavor out of those grounds. So yeah, now we're getting fancy. Go ahead, Jay. Sorry, I just want to make sure they knew that there was a stir and a little tamper going on.
Yeah, and listen, you can use these different kinds of alcohols with any kind of coffees, whether you do an espresso or regular drip coffee at home. And so my personal recommendation is, if you're adding stuff to quote unquote coffee based drinks, is use an espresso, because you're going to have a more pure portion of the coffee. It's going to be a little bit stronger, right? And that's going to break through some of those other flavorings and things like that. Now, you can actually go to the store and you can buy like the pumps of that sugar stuff that Starbucks and everybody else has.
You could actually go to Starbucks and buy.
Yeah, I don't know. This is again, totally personal preference. If you love that stuff, I don't really recommend that. There's so many things that you can do to really, spice your coffee up. You can, at the grocery store, get actual mint leaves. And if you kind of smack the mint leaves around a little bit, put those in your coffee, it can give a really good flavor to it. My dad, I remember specifically, he used to do this. He would get, those old school mint candies, the one that was like a little round with the white candy with the little red stripes on it. Real cheap.
Oh, yeah.
Candy, just pull it apart like Brock's or whatever candies. And he would drop one of those in his coffee. It would add a tiny bit of mint. There's a little bit of sugar in there. So it would, and that's all he put. No cream, no sugar of any other kind. And it would just add a little bit of flavoring to it. So there's a lot of things you can do at home that are a little bit more subdued than the typical, trendy coffee shop squirts of sugary, whatever that stuff is. Because that's what always worries me about that stuff. If you look at it, it's got all kinds of garbage in it.
So that's another thing you could do, and I've used it before. So when you're frothing the milk, right? I put in there sometimes a little bit of the Nestle Lechera, which is that when you make tres leches, they have caramel, they have vanilla, they have different flavors. They also have gluten free, and there are some sugar free versions. You put that in there just for a little bit of flavor, and when you're frothing your milk, and you put that in your espresso, stuff right there, Maynard. Let me tell you. So, but again, there's a lot of substitutes for that excessive sugar that's in those syrupy stuff that they sell. Now they do have sugar free versions of those, do they not, Jay?
Oh yeah,
of those syrups.
Yes, all of those syrups, I believe, now have.
Okay.
There may be like some obscure flavor that they only do in a sugary version.
Correct.
They do, but I'm sure like we're going into pumpkin spice latte season. So that I'm sure you can get in both sugar and sugar free.
I personally like my cinnamon dulce is my favorite. My daughter got me into that cinnamon dulce.
Yeah,
I'm bougie like that.
The whole
I'm
pumpkin
bougie.
thing. I'm just not like. I like pumpkin, but it's just not for me.
I'm not a pumpkin guy.
So if you're not a big coffee drinker, or you're just getting into coffee, probably one of the things I'd recommend the most to you is just Joe mentioned it earlier. Right now they have. Let me find it really quick. So Mr. Coffee has a 5-cup mini brew switch coffee maker. It's $25 on Amazon. Nice. Super cheap, right? 5 cups, so you don't need a whole lot. If you're not brewing a ton for anybody, get you into it for $25, and it's going to make a decent cup of coffee. It's not going to be anything to write home about, but it's I don't know if that one in particular, I'll have to look at it and see if that one has a gold filter, because that is one thing I do recommend for everybody.
Can you buy this filter separately though?
You can, yeah, you can. You can buy those separately. If your coffee maker doesn't come with, if you're doing a drip system with a gold filter, get one. It's easier just to keep it cleaned out. And I'll kind of leave you with the cleaning side of things. Something you should do every once in a while is just run plain white vinegar through your coffee system, right? Just brew the whole thing like you're brewing a pot of coffee, but just don't put any grounds in it, obviously, and let it clean it out. I use that same water a couple times through, right? And just
run it through.
Run it through, and then I pour that out, and then I fill it up with clean water, and then dump that out, clean water, dump that out, clean water,
to
about
get
three times to get the vinegar out, because you'll know once the vinegar is gone because you won't smell it anymore.
I know
that helps get rid of all the hard water stuff and everything. And do yourself a favor, if you have a glass carafe, get what's called Barkeeper's Friend. When you go to the grocery store, people say, oh, well, it's more expensive than Ajax or Comet or whatever. Once again, get Barkeeper's Friend. It's a couple bucks more. You don't use a lot of it. It's scratch free, so it's going to help keep your glass really sparkly clean. Because your coffee makers, there's oil in the coffee, and it's going to stain up your mugs, and it's going to stain up everything else. And that's a great product to really clean everything up and keep it nice and fresh for you. They do have specific coffee machine cleaners, like a little bottle of it that you can pour. I think it's like you pour half the bottle in there once, and then you got another half for another deal. Do I recommend those? If you want to do that, it's probably a little bit easier. I still recommend just plain old white vinegar and water. It's probably the best thing. It's all natural, much cheaper, and you can do it whenever you feel like, every 3 to 6 months or something like that. Just depends. A lot of people like leaving their coffee maker kind of like a iron skillet, right? They like leaving their coffee maker
seasoned.
A little bit seasoned, yeah. And just keep that flavor going on there. It's not going to kill it or anything, but your machine's going to last longer, especially in the tank and stuff like that, if you keep it kind of flushed out and keep it clean as much as possible. But yeah, there's a lot of things with coffee, tons of options, a lot of machines out there, great machines now.
Yeah, there's some good machines.
Get, like Joe was saying, a big thing is everything's getting smaller and more compact, and these little K-cup machines that take up very, very little room. So if you have an apartment, and if you only drink 1 cup of coffee a day, hey, that's actually a really great option to go with. I have to keep a big coffee maker because
let's stop sending that misinformation out there, Jason, please.
I got to keep a big coffee maker because when Mom and Auntie visit or you come over, we're burning we're burning through a whole pot, man.
We're burning the candle at both ends when it comes to coffee.
Yeah.
Hey, but you know what's funny? That the other day I don't know where I was. It has to be somewhere where there's a lot of liquor, but I was somewhere and I saw this, Patron, right?
Yeah,
tequila. They have a coffee tequila.
Really?
Patron has now a coffee tequila. So this is how influential coffee has become in our society.
Yeah.
Not just here, but all over the world. Coffee is, if you see people, whether it's a torn Iraq or, Turkey or anywhere in the Middle East, anywhere in Europe, you're going to have people sitting at cafes drinking espressos or coffees.
Yeah.
It's just something that everyone in this world has in common. And why is it? Because it's addicting, it's great flavors, and it's something to do with your time, with friends and loved ones, and sit around and drink coffee. It's something that's been passed on from generation to generation. It was passed down from my grandmother to my mother, and then from my mother to me. It's not like my mom's like, here, have some coffee. But it was, here, have some coffee. It was basically my grandma gave me coffee, my mom gave me coffee. So both of them are, of course, attributed to my addiction to coffee. They were my pushers. They were my dealers in my youth.
Yeah.
They attributed to my addiction. And then when I came down from Michigan, your mom had that big old pot of coffee ready for me. I'm like, we tore that up too, man. And your mom loved coffee too. So
Oh yeah, she does. Yeah. So she has the same machine
she
I
does.
do.
Yeah.
But hers is the one with the stainless steel carafe, where mine's the glass carafe.
Yeah.
So there's if you want to let a pot set there a little bit longer, hers is better for that because it'll hold the heat a lot longer than the glass carafe will.
We went through 2 pots, brother.
Well, that's the thing.
Coffee.
I don't worry about mine because by the time the plate turns off, the plate heater turns off, that pot's gone. So we've got to burn a new one. So,
but coffee is good, man. But now, again, like everything, know your limits, right? Anything in excess is going to be harmful to your health. So, what you can to elongate your time with coffee, use sugar-free creamers. Do everything you can to make sure that when you go to the doctor's office for your annual checkup, he's not saying you need to cut down on the coffee. Well, you need to just go find yourself a new doctor because.
And well, the thing is that there's been a lot of studies done, and plain black coffee is actually really good for you, especially if you only have a couple cups or whatever. Like Joe said, super excess. There's a whole different story there. I'll kind of cap it off with, we talked about the different kind of alcohols. If you haven't done it yet and you want to experiment, now if you're not a drinker, don't get it, right? But if you are, there's a couple that I recommend. One I already said was Kahlua. Kahlua makes a couple different kinds that are
very good,
really perfect pairs for just a regular old drip coffee or an espresso. And then the other one is Bailey's Irish Cream Espresso Liqueur, and that would be amazing in any kind of coffee and give you some great flavor. And again, you don't need a whole lot of it. It'll just give you a little kick in there, and really good for the upcoming winter months.
The holidays
here soon. Yeah, the holidays.
The stress of the lot. But here's the thing about those two that you mentioned, Jay. When you're drinking the coffee, it doesn't even taste like there's liquor in it. They do such a good job in masking the flavors.
Right.
Match that of the coffee. And it just, to you, it seems like it's just another creamer in there. Right.
Yeah.
And I think I just drink too much of it. I don't even feel the alcohol anymore. But no, it's really good.
Well,
it's really good.
I've never liked hot liquors.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people like Guinness, which you're supposed to drink at room temperature.
Yeah.
Don't act that. What is the other one? Brandy. You know, so you have the brandy snifter, and a lot of times if you're at a nice place, they'll serve it to you and there's like a candle underneath it. So it's keeping the side of the glass hot. So it keeps the brandy warm. Yeah, I don't like that either. So I guess if you're in really super cold country, maybe you might get used to it after a while. But these liqueurs inside of hot coffee actually taste really good. Yeah. They do. So from a guy that does not like any kind of warm or room temperature alcohol, maybe with the exception of some wines, the liqueurs in hot coffee, they're actually really good. So,
well, hopefully this was beneficial to you, that those of you that are starting off to be coffee drinkers, and to those that have been coffee drinkers, hopefully this information was helpful to you. But as always, me and Jade love to share our daily lives, and coffee clearly is part of our life. And I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode as much as we enjoyed making it. So
yep, we actually did the intro to this 2 months ago or something. We've been looking forward to it so much. So yeah, well, everybody, like Joe said, we'll just second that. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. Remember to check out all of our media channels at linktree/Joe and Jay Outspoken. Don't forget, everybody, take care of one another,
and as decent human beings, remember, do better, be better,
and as always,
God bless America.
America.
We'll see you next week.
See you next Tuesday.